it sounds radically out there that somehow by using your mind, your thoughts, you can, you know, invite or manifest a UFO, for want of a better words, or, whatever these things are.
I was actually doing breath work. I was doing holotropic breath work, and I was in a holotropic breath work session.
Tapping into this other thing. And here I go, start seeing and feeling things again. And I'm like, oh, wait. So when I saw this thing, we were super spiritual. Not spiritual, didn't see anything. And now I'm back to being spiritual. And here it goes. I'm like asking for this to show up, and I'm trail running by myself. And I'm like, what the is that?
For example, if Sisto was to come over to the United Kingdom and attempt the contact sort of process that he goes through, would he be does he believe he'd be as successful here as he is over in Peru? And or is there a sense that location is part of the success, so to speak? The following is a number of short clips from a number of the guests who appeared on the UAP Files podcast, talking specifically about CE5, Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, contact, consciousness, and meditation. Mark recently filmed Encounters of the Fifth Kind on Amazon Prime, exploring, testing, and capturing a UFO on camera after CE5. He's also responsible for God vs. Aliens on Nub TV.
So you mentioned Dr. Greer. Do you see much of a... He's got a fascinating career, and I completely agree in what you say. Like, I'm immensely respectful of his earlier work, particularly around the Disclosure Project and whatnot. And with bringing the CE5 vocabulary, I mean, it's now the term in the public's mouths. But I do agree there's that certain element of ivory tower that creeps in if you're not careful. But what do you see much of a difference between that old school, the old guard, your Jacques Vallée's and Dr. Greer's, and what's happening now? And do you think it's a better environment, or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's getting more, for want of a better word, democratic, less autocratic, where you've got the kind of the cult leaders telling everyone the message, I guess. Whereas I think people should try and experiment and find out themselves. That's very much what I'm about. And, one of the reasons me wanting to make these films is like, okay, let's discuss UFOs, but it's not all about America. It's not all about the US. It all seems to be so much US centric. And I've been talking, there's a chap called John Hanson. I don't know if you know him, Haunted Skies Publishing. He's a retired CID officer, very, very down to earth. But he's had experiences that he can't explain. And he's pretty sure that the paranormal and UFOs are linked. And he kind of inspired me to go and make this my latest film, because he actually took a group of people. One of them was Brenda Butler, a ufologist, and they went to Rendlesham. Because that's the hotspot, I guess, in this country. So they went to Rendlesham, and I had an idea to watch the skies and try and manifest or welcome some visitors. And I've seen the photographic evidence they did. There's orbs appeared. But the weirdest thing that John explained to me is, like, as well as having the orbs appear, which is weird enough, they had strange objects just drop from the sky. Apports. Yeah. In Rendlesham. So that's well weird. But that kind of inspired me to push this further, and I'm really going to go with this now, because it sounds radically out there that somehow by using your mind, your thoughts, you can, invite or manifest a UFO, for want of a better words, or whatever these things are. And also, I've looked at Stephen Greer's work, but kind of what worries me about that is I don't think you should be charging people for an app and making money out of. It's kind of turning it into a bit of a cult. But I found a really nice lady, actually, called Ray Dove in America, and she's worked with Dr. Greer. And she's very much for, this thing is real. Let's help people free of charge to use it and spread the word. So I took a lot of advice and got a lot of help from her. And she was amazing. So I think there's something to this. It's how we go and investigate it and record it. That's my mission at the moment.
Do you think that the location is important? So, I mean, for example, if Sixto was to come over to the United Kingdom and attempt the contact sort of process that he goes through, would he be does he believe he'd be as successful here as he is over in Peru? Or is there a sense that location is part of the success, so to speak?
Los lugares tienen importancia.
All the places have an important, are important.
Pero son diferentes tipos de contactos los que se dan en cada lugar.
But there is a different kind of contact that you can achieve in different places.
Por ejemplo, en Inglaterra, ellos están dando mensajes a través de los crop circles, ¿no? De los aerolifos.
Yeah.
For example, in England, they are making the message around the crop circle.
Yeah.
Y eso es como muy espectacular, como muy llamativo.
This is spectacular, no? Something that everyone can see.
Entonces, son distintas experiencias de contacto, pero al final se están dando en todo el planeta. Todo el planeta está teniendo algún tipo de manifestación.
So at the end, they are different ways of contact, but they are coming all over the heart.
I've seen some of the fantastic talks that he's given during his career, and it's really, really inspiring. He's done some incredible work. And how did he develop the protocols? How did he develop his connection? Because obviously the mission Rama was incredible, and some of the information that he's got is so detailed and clear. So how did he sort of learn? Was it all through play or practice or what?
Nosotros empezamos improvisando la forma del contacto.
They started improvising the way of contact.
Pero poco a poco lo fuimos ordenando y nos fuimos dando cuenta cómo podíamos realmente tener o facilitar más la experiencia del contacto.
But with the time, they start to see the best ways to do it, and to organize the different states of doing the contact.
Pero no hay mucho misterio, realmente son ellos los que eligen contactarse con determinadas personas.
But it's no a mystery, because at the end, they are the ones who decide when and who they want to appear.
Porque ellos saben que a través de ciertas personas pueden llegar a un colectivo mucho más amplio.
Because they know with some people can help them to go with some people can help them to speak with all more people, to reach to.
O sea, hay gente que tiene el contacto y después hay mecanismos de bloqueo de la propia mente que ni siquiera recuerdan haber vivido la experiencia.
There is people that have contact, but after that they forget about that, because they
don't remember nothing.
Nothing at all.
I think both of us were really into meditative things, and I didn't know that it was meditation at the time that my dad would make me do with him. I mean, he invited me and I was like, yeah, let's do it, and after that, when we stopped seeing things, it's like we just stopped doing those things and we just never sensed anything. But yeah, it's interesting because you can tell even now when I ask him and I press about things that have happened to him when he was younger, he's still very like but it happened a long time ago. Maybe I was crazy. And I'm like, I was there with you when I saw it. Well, you're not crazy. So, and I think part of it, my mom, since she's really religious, they think of it as a very evil. And like, you don't talk about it, that's bad. And I see it completely different. So I'm trying to get everyone on the same page so they're comfortable talking about it. I would have thought by now would have broken him a little bit to feel more comfortable talking about it, but there's still like this stigma. I think he's been raised that way his whole life to never talk about it. So yeah. I'm in healthcare. I've always been very like facts. You need pictures. I need data. I need all these things, but there's also something you can't deny, that there is this other thing that is associated to it. And the reason why I say that is when we had this encounter, me and my dad, we would meditate. Like now I notice the sound, so really deep humming. We would do that every night. And I don't know what it is. I try to find it. He would do it and hold this is going to sound crazy. I mean, I always tell myself this is going to sound crazy. He would hold like a golden triangle in his hand, like a pyramid. And he would hum for like, until we all fell asleep. And this is the summer leading into, because we would go in the summer when we were on summer break for school. And when I saw the UAP, it actually turned me completely different, where I didn't believe in anything, like almost atheistic, and didn't believe in anything. And so I was chasing this thing, like, I want to see this thing, there's got to be, something that's beyond, maybe it's some weird technology, maybe it's this like, developed super race, and I'm going to find it scientifically. And so I focused on so many of that aspect that I just kind of forgot everything that we had practiced, never saw anything until recently, about a year ago, when I finally had like, like, what's the purpose of life? Why am I here? Kind of those kind of thoughts. And you start, tapping into this other thing. And here I go, start seeing and feeling things again. And I'm like, oh, wait. So when I saw this thing, we were super spiritual. Not spiritual, didn't see anything. And now I'm back to being spiritual. And here it goes. I'm like asking for this to show up, and I'm trail running by myself. And I'm like, what the is that? Okay, crazy. So that really changed everything for me. So my perspective for it is changed. And I still think that there's something objective to see. And obviously there's, very intelligent people who are seeing these things. And I do value that portion of it. But I also think that there's this whole other thing that no one's ever going to understand, because it's not just that.
It was likely just a lucid dream. I don't think there was any, again, abduction or anything like that. But because of that experience and a couple of other ones through meditation, I actually stopped meditating for about 15 years because it was too intense, too overwhelming. I didn't know what it meant. And again, I would be able to put myself in that state very quickly just by lying on my back. So I stopped sleeping. I stopped ever sleeping on my back, which is hard to do anyway. And I think I have a sore shoulder because of it, because now sleeping on my side forever. But then I actually, after 2017, a good friend of mine, I'm thinking about whether I say his name or not. He's a wonderful actor, but his dad was actually in charge of Canada's UFO studies, including circle crops. And so him and I, little did we know, I made my first feature film when I was 20, and it was about somebody that doesn't realize then they've died and they're in the afterlife and they get a chance to come back, and it's very kind of esoteric and spiritual. But he was in that film, and I was keeping my UFO secrets because I didn't want anyone to know what I experienced, and he, as it turns out, was keeping his own secrets because we were both ashamed. Again, his dad was one of the leading scientists in the crop research and UFO field. So years went by, and then we became, after 2017, when the stuff started to come out, we started talking, and he said to me, kind of like the Stephen Greer idea that, we're actually all energy. It's, it's the illusion of separation because we're in these skin suits that we think, we're private and alone and whatever that may be. But potentially these things can communicate to us through more telepathic means, which is, again, very consistent with what a lot of these aerial school children saw or were taught or were told. And that if you are open and if you have a certain type. Maybe they communicate through you, and I was already open to that kind of, and it sounds like quite ridiculous because we're all special. No one's like more unique than anyone else, but maybe some people can like tap into different things for different reasons. And as a science fiction writer, I mean, I sort of felt that even when I was 16, 17, 18, that like maybe, if they are trying to help us grow as a society, as a planet, so we can join the greater society, maybe they'll use Spielberg and his non-hostile approach to, at least through Close Encounters and E.T., to tell stories of benign beings that can help us grow and find love. And so he just said, maybe that dream that you had wasn't a dream. Maybe it was, maybe they don't need physical craft and physical means to contact us. Like if we can meditate through a certain practice, maybe they did actually touch base with you. So I was open to that idea, and he's like, why don't you start meditating again? Why don't you start again? And I was really terrified to do so. But maybe a year and a half ago, I started to try it again. And sure enough, I was having very, very quick kind of body paralysis experiences where I was aware that I was asleep, and then I was aware that I was separate from my physical body, and the astral plane, as it's been called by some. And so sure enough, this one day I was meditating. It was kind of late afternoon, and I found myself awake outside of my body. And again, I'm very open to just being a dream. Of course I am. But I felt this hum. There was like this really low vibration hum that I was feeling, and I was looking around my apartment, walking in a lucid dream state around my apartment. And I went out to my balcony because the sound was coming from the outside. And I opened my sliding door, and the sound was a little bit louder. And sure enough, up above my building where I currently live was the same ship that I saw in my dream when I was 16, 17, was the same ship that we saw when I was 12. And I was aware that, oh my God, I've either produced this through my brain, through the way we can create imagery and symbolism, or like my friend has said, maybe they're touching base. And so as I felt myself actually being pulled towards the craft, I was in such a fear state that I started to wiggle my toe and pull myself out of my body paralysis state. And then I woke up again, and it was gone. But like always, my body was vibrating like crazy. And that was a very common experience I had through the meditation when I was going through these experiences.
I think that people have such a misunderstanding of how the experience of other life is actually experienced, because they're thinking with their third dimensional minds. So they want it to be something tangible. I can hold it in my hand and touch it and poke it. And that's not how it works. These other dimensional beings are on a vibrational resonance that are so far beyond us. It's like when you spin a top, right? And then suddenly you see less and less of the top the faster it spins until you can barely see it at all. That's what people don't understand about stories when they hear abductions and they hear all of these things, right? So I will tell you my journey. I was actually doing breath work. I was doing holotropic breath work, and I was in a holotropic breath work session. And I had been doing this pretty consistently. I have no idea about density and the system being heavier versus lighter. So I had a lot of emotional trauma in my body. So that made me really dense. And when I offloaded that, when I stopped eating meat, when I stopped eating dairy, when I started taking certain things out of what was going into this physical avatar body, I kept getting lighter and lighter and lighter. And And what coincided with that was that I kept having spiritual experiences at a more heightened level. In direct relation to the reduction of my density, I would see a higher level of spiritual experiences in my mind during meditation, during breath work, during sound healing, all of these different modalities that I was using for the purpose of having a more healthy, well-being, a more healed life. I had no idea where I was going with this. And it certainly wasn't my intention because, like I said, I would have thought that I was a crazy person if I was intending to do this because I thought they were all crazy people. I am now happy to be cray. But I was in a breathwork session and I had given over to the belief in reincarnation. I was like, okay, I have memories of other lifetimes. This is something that I couldn't make the emotions that came with the memories up. Never mind the memories. I'm an actress. I can fake emotion all day long, honey. I cannot as an actress, and I think I'm not terrible. Like even as a not terrible actress, I can't get that level of emotion that quickly, that spontaneously. And I understand the realm and the spectrum of emotions to such an extent as an actress that you have to do a lot of work to hit a moment where you go from just normal conversation into hysterics or into a deep emotion. That's not something that you can do easily. It actually takes a lot of honing of the instrument that is the body. So I was having moments constantly, and they were all in line with Egypt and different lifetimes and connecting to like these ancient places that I'd never seen or heard of. So I certainly wasn't creating them. But I started to, in meditation, see this being that had these liquid laser blue eyes. And I thought that I just had this wonderful imagination because I'm an actress and, you know, I've got worlds in my mind. So I must have made this up. And I go into a breath work, and this being looks like a pharaoh, but has liquid laser blue eyes, literally like as if it was just liquid, like not an eye with you know white around. It's the entire eye is just liquid laser blue. So I have no idea, and I think I'm the only person in the world that's ever experienced this, of course, because you know it's all about me. So I have no idea what's about to happen. But at the time, I was dealing with different parts of myself within myself. So I had the 6-year-old me, I had the 13-year-old me, and I was working on integration in my healing journey with these parts of myself. And I was in the breath work, and this pharaoh-y, otherworldly being with these laser eyes takes the hand of my 6-year-old self in my mind's eye in the breathwork session. And I you know how you sense the thought, the thought occurred to me but it wasn't originating with me. It was originating from this being. Come with me.
Like sometimes I would debate UFOs and stuff with people, and they're like, well, if there are other planets with life, do you know how long it would take them to get here? It's like, you're thinking like a human, dude. You don't know wormholes, black holes, dimensions, bending space and time. You're thinking like the ant who looks at a dog and doesn't know it's a dog. And it's like, oh, I see this furry stick here. You know, it's a leg, bro, of a dog. You don't know. So we have to dispel the limited knowledge we have. So I think that there's and by the way, when I get really into my meditative realms, I get downloads that aren't from me, that say things to me that at first don't make any sense. And I'm like, that's such an interesting answer. And I believe, and I know other people who channel, right, from beings, light beings, the blue avians. There's people who see aliens, and I believe that stuff. It all kind of goes together, this realm of spirituality and beings that are in other dimensions, etc., spirit guides. And by the way, if you're into biblical stuff, they talk about angels. Well, why isn't an angel an alien? It doesn't say in the Bible that angels are little teeny babies who are naked with wings. It doesn't say that. It talks about, you know, entities coming through bright lights with sounds and horns and trumpets, or however it phrases it, right? So to me, it's all the same. Everybody's trying to explain the same thing, just with their limited understanding. If we remember, the Bible was written 2,000 years ago, you know.